Perhaps we'll go around and would you like to make a few remarks, Helen? Did you have any comments to make in summing up?
I just found it very impressive and and thought-provoking. And
it is, you're right.
Disturbing. And I suppose the one comment I'd make is that I don't think everything has been as closely related to CEDAW as it could be, but I don't think that's a big problem. But, you know, for example, when we're talking about obstetric violence, which I think is just fascinating, but I think you need really to take that out of the context of medical injury, because CEDAW's not, you know,
interested in women's health.
That's right. It's not. I mean, as a, you need to put it into bring the state agency into it as well, so that it is a matter for CEDAW, not just a matter of concern for us. So
I can't hear.
I just that was my only thing, but I don't think that's very difficult. I think to do. I think it's a really rather simple thing to do. That was why I was asking that question about what, you know, to frame it as gender-based violence. How do you get to do that, and not simply as medical injury? So how does medical injury become understood as a form of gender-based violence? But I think that's a very minor point. So.
And what about you, Mary?
I think the whole thing, just from the presenters, there were issues that I've never heard about, especially with vulvar cancer. I thought that was quite interesting because that would have never crossed my mind. So issues that I've never really, and don't really impact me, but have now made me think about other things, because all these issues do affect us because we are women. So I think this is something that was really helpful, just for myself as well, but for everyone else.
Good. Kerry?
Same. There was one thing that in the last submission that drew my attention to something I'd encountered once before in the family law court, and that is the report writing. I've seen the reports, at least not recently, but same type of people writing them. And she says there's no appeal. I think that's a really important for against the report. That's hideously wrong, because having seen those reports, I've seen how they write them, the language used, and I wonder, in the training of the report writers, if there is a training, the manipulation of the recommendations or the story of the people is entirely based on the type of language that's used, whether it be descriptive, whether it be emotional, whether it be, we all do it. We write it in our essays, let alone anything else. And I've seen the report writing, and I've seen how report writers have written about the man and the woman in totally different language to portray an incident or an incidence of the woman being mad and the man being upright, even though the woman is claiming that he punches her in the stomach when the report writer or the psychologist, who it was, walks out of the room. While she was talking about this, I kept thinking, that's just so significant. I mean, everything else is too. I've heard of most of everything else. I knew about the report writing, but I'd forgotten about it. And I would really like that to be drawn to the attention of any assessing authority about the need for people who have some linguistic understanding about how they write on other people's lives.
Good. Well, let me make a final summing up. Thank you very much. This is the close of the CEDAW hearings that we've held at the University of New South Wales from the 25th to the 27th of May 2023. We heard evidence from Leonie Maguire, of New South Wales on women's refuges, Michelle Fernando from South Australia on family law, Barbary Clark from Victoria on disability, Sally Gearan from the Northern Territory on criminal assault at home and other forms of domestic violence, with particular reference to the importance of ensuring that Indigenous Australian women, First Nations women, have proper protection, care and attention paid. From Marita Murphy, New South Wales, speaking on child sexual abuse and the problems with statutes of limitations. Karen Baczynski-Lee, who is originally from Perth and Melbourne and Hobart, but currently in Bani DeLuca in India, talking about the film, in Italy, yes, thank you, Bani DeLuca in Italy, speaking on film and media. Simone Watson from Western Australia on prostitution, prostituted women. Jane Matz from New South Wales and Stacey Carter from the Australian Capital Territory on family law. Jessica Williams from Victoria on prisons. Shemaine Weldon from New South Wales on rural and regional women. Jenny Hocking from Victoria on history and publishing and the deficit in terms of the acknowledgement of Australian women in official histories and the failure to ensure that women academics and writers are properly recognised in writing that history for the official record, the Australian Dictionary of Biography, for example. Catherine Lynch from New South Wales on adoption and child removal and also surrogacy in that regard. Kath Mazzella from Western Australia on vulva cancer and the importance of actually acknowledging women's genital configuration. The vagina is the inside channel and the vulva is the outside part, the genitalia of women. That's rarely recognised, and the word vagina seems to have become the word that now is substituted for vulva. Diana Haddon from Victoria on family law and criminal assault at home and other forms of domestic violence. Janine Reeves from Queensland on family law. Claire O'Connor from South Australia on the environment, climate change and women within the legal profession. Julie, and also made reference to her work in regard to the Working Women's Centre of South Australia. Gina Masterton from Queensland on the Hague Convention and the rights of women as mothers under that convention. Deborah Towns from Victoria on education and women and girls. Yavo Thompson from Tasmania spoke on human rights bill, the necessity for a human rights bill. She spoke on women in education, women in employment in relation to unequal pay and the pensions gap arising from that, and references made by a number of the witnesses to housing and the lack of housing for women, particularly older women. Manjalika Agarwal from Queensland, who spoke on prostitution and pornography and the changing of women's bodies in obeisance to some so-called perfect body. Alicia Marie Staines speaking on maternity and women's rights in terms of childbirth, and Lauren Quilligan again on the family law. So we appreciate everybody from who's come before the hearings to give evidence, which will be incorporated into a submission to the CEDAW Committee. And I end simply by saying that we have sat here, as all women do, holding out our hands to those women of the past whose hands were strong, whose hearts were staunch, whose souls were committed to women's rights then and for the future. And those women worked so that every woman today could look back and look forwards and hold hands with those women of the past, so that we work together on the basis of what the women of the past have done going forward into the future. Our final words will be this. As Susan B. Anthony, that strong American feminist, said, men, their rights are nothing more, women, their rights are nothing less. Thank you all for tuning in to our CEDAW hearings. Thank you. Oh, good.
Is that finished?